A drag show being hosted by the Air Force was canceled after people outraged spoke out and contacted the Pentagon. And Matt Gaetz was one of those people who sent a letter over to the Secretary of Defense saying, why do you have all of these different events scheduled at different bases around the country? Feels a little inappropriate. And turns out at least one of them was, in fact, canceled. Some background from CNN. They say that the drag show at the Air Force base that was scheduled as Pride Month begins was canceled by the Pentagon. The Air Force base in Nevada was forced to cancel a drag show at the start of the Pride Month. It had already been approved. Probably pressure from the bigots out there. This came according to 3 officials familiar with the situation. Now, the drag show was scheduled at the Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, scheduled for June 1, and recognizes the importance of LGBT service members and civilian personnel. According to the military official, it would have been the 3rd annual drag show held at Nellis, the home of the fighter pilot, and the Air Force Center for Advanced Fighter Training. Despite previous 2 events being held at the base, this one was not allowed to move forward after the Pentagon intervened, according to 2 defense officials, forcing the base to cancel the event. Lloyd has previously been outspoken about this, saying in 2021, LGBTQ plus citizens have fought to defend our rights and freedoms from the founding of our nation to the Civil War. But he has drawn a line at allowing drag events or shows to be hosted at military bases. One of the officials said, making clear that the DoD funds cannot be appropriated for the events. So Air Force officials said, well, consistent with his congressional testimony, we've been directed to cancel or to relocate these to other locations. A Pentagon spokeswoman said drag shows are not an appropriate use of U.S. military bases. You're kidding. As Secretary Austin has said, the DoD will not host drag events at installations. Using these in federally funded institutions is not a suitable use of resources. Our service members are diverse and they're allowed to have personal outlets. But why was it approved then? Austin told a House Armed Services Committee hearing that drag shows are not something the Defense Department supports or funded. Matt Gaetz pressed him on it. We're going to read Gaetz's letter in a minute, adding that this is not something we support of the funds. But was I mistaken, or did they just tell us that there were previously this was done before? According to a military official, it would have been the 3rd annual drag show. The 3rd since Biden took over. Year 1, he gets 1. Year 2, he gets 2. Year 3, they cancel it. Was already scheduled and it was already approved. So why did they cancel something that was already approved? Very curious. Maybe it's because people are starting to become outraged about this. This is the letter that came out from Matt Gaetz over to the Honorable Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, and Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And this was drafted by Mr. Matt Gaetz. And Gaetz sent the following. From the Armed Services Committee on the Judiciary. From the Armed Services Committee and the Committee on the Judiciary in the House of Representatives. He says, Dear Secretary Austin and General Milley, during the House Armed Services Committee hearing, I questioned you about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the DoD. I find it completely unacceptable that the DoD is using tax money to fund DEI programs that are divisive in nature. When I highlighted specific cases of drag queen story hours occurring on military bases, shockingly, you indicated you were unaware of the events. However, I'm pleased to know you do not support these drag events and agree with me they should not be happening. To aid you in executing the agreed upon elimination of DoD funded drag events, I have enclosed supplementary documents to further highlight the DoD's pervasive and persistent use of tax dollars for drag events. I've also included throughout their correspondence, which I require answers to from you. Here's what we've got. On May 27, 2022, local drag queen, somebody called Stacy, planned to hold a 30-minute story time for kids on base. I request answers to the following questions. As you know, this event was canceled, but how much of the DoD funding was intended for it? There was also another one July 30th. This one was out of Virginia. This was approved as a diversity, equity, and inclusion summer festival, and also brought in the Navy drag queen, performed at the family-friendly event. Serial DoD drag performer, somebody called Harpy. They provided logistics and tents like tables and things. So do you retract your statement that the DoD does not fund these things? You clearly did. There was another one, Nellis Air Force Base. 99th Air Base Wing hosted a drag show, multiple drag performers. Colonel Josh DeMotts was the commander. I request answers on this one. So July 2022, June 2023. This one was obviously canceled. You said that you don't do this, but this one announced a family-friendly drag event organized by the Nellis Pride Council on the military base. You said you don't do that. What about this one from June 30th? Montana, Malmstrom Air Force Base. Drag Storytime Drag Trivia at the Air Force Base Library. Colonel Anita Fugate Opperman was the commander. March 3rd, 2023. The U.S. Navy hires active duty drag queen to be the face of the recruitment drive. According to the reports, the invitation was part of a recent drive to attract the most talented and, quote, diverse workforce. So he wants to know the following. He says, please provide me with all questions posed in this letter on whether any punitive action has or will be taken against individuals who facilitated drag events with taxpayer money by June 12, 2023. I appreciate your attention to this matter. Sincerely, your friend, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz wants to know a lot about what the DoD is doing, how much money was being sent over for this, what types of resources were being pumped into these shows. And Mark Milley and Lloyd Austin will have to wait to see if they respond.